Welcome back to Punk Rock Theologian. We're continuing through the book and we get to the story of Abraham. This is a very special person because a massive amount of the world's religion traces back to this one dude. Christianity, Islam, and Judaism all view Abraham as like the father of their faith, which is strange because he was not a Christian, a Muslim, or a Jew. When we first meet him, his name is Abram. He's a Chaldean. It's a culture with many gods, and he's just worshiping them like anybody else does. At least until the day that the real God speaks to him. And that clearly makes an impact because you never see Abram look back at all to any of the other gods. And that's no small thing because the message God gave him was to leave everything he knows and just go. Doesn't even give him a destination. I'm not even sure if he said a direction. He's just like, get out of here to another place that I'll show you. And Abram does. This is the hallmark thing of him. He trusts and he listens to God at a shocking level, but his life is one of cruel irony. His name means exalted father, and when we first meet him, he's 75 years old with no children. His wife Sarai is an absolute beautiful knockout. We'll find out more about that in a minute, but that's not how she gets introduced. Just like people still do today, the story focuses on her one weakness, her inadequacy. And Genesis 11:30 says, Sarai was unable to become pregnant and had no children. Abram takes his wife, his servants, all his belongings. He brings his nephew with him, which it's debatable whether or not he should have, but he does. And he leaves. When they get to the land of Canaan, God appears to him again and re-emphasizes his promise that he's going to turn him into a mighty nation and that his descendants will own this land where he's now a foreigner and a nomad. Once again, Abram trusts God and believes him. But then things get tricky. A famine hits, and just in order to survive, Abram decides to head down to Egypt, where apparently they were better off. This is where the story takes a weird turn. Genesis 12, starting at verse 11, it says, As he was approaching the border of Egypt, Abram said to his wife Sarai, Look, you're a very beautiful woman. When the Egyptians see you, they will say, This is his wife. Let's kill him, then we can have her. So please tell them you're my sister. Then they will spare my life and treat me well because of their interest in you. And sure enough, when Abram arrived in Egypt, everyone noticed Sarai's beauty. For one thing, this is impressive. She's in her late 60s at this point, and such a knockout that it's problematic. But speaking of problematic, Abram totally sold her out. Like, literally sold her. He's like, yeah, I know they're gonna want you, and if they think you're my sister, not my wife, then I can get stuff from it instead of being in danger. So you go ahead and I don't know what's gonna happen to you, honey, best of luck. Sarai gets taken into Pharaoh's harem. Abram gets a lot of gifts for her until God punishes the Pharaoh and the whole country because of her. And they end up finding out the truth. They get mad at Abram and kick him out, but he gets to keep all the gifts. It's such a strange story. Like, is this how God is blessing Abram? Was he supposed to do that? Or was this something he did wrong? We don't even know how Sarai felt about it. The Bible doesn't tell us anything of that. There's no commentary on it. It's just, this happened, moving on. But this is kind of a turning point in Abram's life. He's really taking off so much that he and his nephew can't even coexist anymore. They're both too wealthy and powerful and have too big of herds to be in the same spot. They have to split up. Most importantly, Abram just trusts God now. He recognizes that God can bring him through anything and he can make it all work. Even when his nephew gets taken prisoner in a war that Abram's not at all involved in, he grabs his servants, goes and fights against 4 combined armies and wins and gets Lot back, and we get one sentence like it's no big deal because apparently Abram didn't even see it as a big deal. He just trusts that God is working things out. Except for that whole thing where God said he would have countless descendants and he doesn't even have one, and he's not getting any younger. Neither is his wife. The next time God appears to him in Genesis 15, it's the first thing Abram says. Oh, sovereign Lord, what good are all your blessings when I don't even have a son? You've given me no descendants of my own, so one of my servants will be my heir. And this is the key moment. This is when God tells him, no, that won't be the case. You will have a son. As a matter of fact, you'll have as many offspring as the stars in the sky. And against all odds, Abraham believes him. That's the thing that is routinely held up as credit to Abraham. Every time the New Testament looks back at the story of Abraham and celebrates him as the champion of faith, it's for this moment. It's long before he ever actually has the son. It's simply that he believed what God said. And that's what mattered. Verse 6 says, Abram believed the Lord, and the Lord counted him as righteous because of his faith. His story's not over. There's still a lot of drama to come. But the most important thing has already been said. Abram has driven a stake into the ground, and he trusts God. And God credits him as righteous because of that faith, that trust. Simply that he believes what God said. It's not believing in God. It's not believing that God is real. James tells us the demons believe God is real. That doesn't make you special. But he believes God. He trusts that what what God said he will do, he will do. He believes that God can be taken at his word. That is the definition of faith. That's the example that Abram leaves for us. Yeah, he got impatient from time to time and he made mistakes along the way. We all do that too. The beautiful thing is we can follow Abram's example. We can trust God to keep his promises because God always comes through. Frankly, whether you believe it or not, he's still going to, because he can't not keep his promise. The real question is whether we will trust him just because he said so, whether we have any evidence for it or not. If you want proof and facts and data, that's not faith, that's logic, and logic doesn't impress God. But what makes us right with God, just like Abram, is trusting and believing that God will do everything that he said.